The alien woman expected many things when she entered the strange wooden house on Earth. She expected danger. She expected primitive behavior. She even expected hostility. But what she saw instead froze her 6 eyes in pure shock. A human male, completely naked, sleeping peacefully like the entire universe did not exist. For a long moment, Solara simply stood there. The room was quiet except for the slow breathing of the human on the bed. Outside, the forest moved gently in the night wind. The alien scout had traveled across dozens of star systems, studied thousands of species, and documented creatures far stranger than humans. Yet nothing in her training prepared her for this. Humans, according to galactic records, were supposed to be unpredictable but fragile. Their bodies were soft. Their technology was primitive compared to the great civilizations of the galaxy. But this human, he was completely exposed. No armor. No protection. No fear. He slept like someone who believed the universe itself would not dare disturb him. Solara tilted her head slowly, analyzing him. Strange species, she whispered to herself. Her glowing antenna twitched with curiosity. Most intelligent species developed natural defenses, sharp claws, heavy shells, powerful toxins. Humans had none of those. Their skin was thin. Their muscles modest. And yet, the data archives warned about them. The warnings were unclear but consistent. Humans survive impossible situations. Solara stepped closer. The human snored softly. His hair was messy, his arms stretched above his head like someone who had fought gravity itself and won. She scanned him with her wrist device. Biological readings appeared in floating light. Heart rate, calm. Body temperature, stable. Stress levels, extremely low. Solara blinked in disbelief. Impossible, she murmured. Her people lived in constant alertness. Even during rest cycles, their minds remained partly active. Survival across hostile star systems demanded it. But this human? His brain waves showed deep, complete sleep. Total vulnerability. It made no sense. Then suddenly, did you need something? The voice nearly made Solara jump out of her exoskeleton. The human had opened one eye. He looked directly at her. For several seconds neither of them moved. The alien scout. The naked Earthman. Both stared at each other in complete confusion. Finally the human rubbed his face and sighed. Wow, he muttered sleepily. Either I'm dreaming, or aliens finally showed up. Solara straightened her posture. She had prepared speeches for first contact. Perfect diplomatic introductions crafted by the greatest scholars of her civilization. But all those words suddenly vanished. Yes, she said awkwardly. I am an alien. The human yawned. He stretched his arms again, completely unconcerned. Cool, he said. Solara blinked again. Cool. She had expected panic. Fear. Maybe even violence. But the human simply sat up slowly and scratched the back of his head. You mind if I grab some pants first? He asked casually. Solara turned her head away instantly. Yes. That would be appropriate. A few seconds later the human pulled on a pair of worn pants and walked toward the small kitchen. You want coffee? He asked. Solara hesitated. Coffee? She had crossed half the galaxy, and her first contact offer was a beverage. Yes, she said carefully. The human poured 2 cups. He handed one to her like this was the most normal meeting in the universe. My name's Jack, he said. Welcome to Earth. Solara carefully accepted the cup. The smell was strong and bitter. Her sensors detected dozens of complex chemical compounds. Your species consumes this willingly, she asked. Jack laughed. Every morning. Solara took a small sip. Her antenna shot straight up. That is extremely powerful. Yeah, Jack said proudly. Humans run on caffeine. For a moment they sat quietly at the small wooden table. The alien scout studying the human studying the alien. Finally Jack leaned back in his chair. So, he said calmly, how many of you are out there? Solara paused. Many civilizations, she replied carefully. Jack nodded slowly. Figures. There was no fear in his voice. Only curiosity. That puzzled Solara even more. You are not afraid? She asked. Jack shrugged. Well, he said, if aliens crossed the galaxy just to kidnap a guy sleeping in his cabin, that would be a pretty weird plan. Solara couldn't help it. She laughed. A real laugh. Her species rarely laughed. But something about this human's calm confidence was strangely amusing. Then suddenly her wrist scanner beeped. A warning signal flashed. Solara's eyes widened. That is not possible. Jack looked at her. What? Her scanner projected a holographic map. Several objects appeared entering Earth's orbit. Large objects. Warships. Alien warships. Solara felt cold. Her species recognized those signals. A conquering fleet from the Korth Dominion. One of the most aggressive empires in the galaxy. They found this planet, she whispered. Jack leaned forward. Is that bad? Solara looked at him seriously. The Korth do not negotiate. Jack scratched his chin. Okay. Solara stared at him. That means invasion. Jack nodded. Got it. Solara waited for panic. But instead Jack stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the quiet forest. Then he smiled. Well, he said, they picked the wrong planet. Solara blinked. You do not understand, she said. Their fleet destroys entire civilizations. Jack turned back toward her. His expression had changed. The relaxed, sleepy human was gone. Now there was something else in his eyes. Confidence. Dangerous confidence. Yeah, Jack said slowly. Aliens usually underestimate humans. He grabbed his phone from the table. What are you doing? Solara asked. Jack dialed a number. Calling some friends. The phone connected. Hey Mike, Jack said casually. You still got that satellite telescope running? Pause. Good. Jack looked at the holographic warships in orbit. Because I think we just found our first alien invasion. Solara stared at him in disbelief. You cannot stop them. Jack grinned. Maybe not alone. Then he opened a laptop and began typing rapidly. Messages started spreading across networks. Emergency signals. Encrypted channels. Military satellites waking up. Old defense systems activating. Across Earth, people began noticing strange signals in the sky. Jack looked at Solara again. You said your people studied humans, right? Yes. Then you probably missed one important detail. What detail? Jack leaned back in his chair. Humans, when threatened, did something unusual. Something terrifying. They worked together. Welcome to the worst invasion decision those aliens ever made, Jack said calmly. And above Earth. The alien fleet began descending. The alien fleet entered Earth's orbit silently, like a storm forming in deep space. Their ships were enormous, dark metallic giants with glowing red engines that burned like distant stars. To Solara, the sight was terrifying. She had seen those ships before in other systems. Wherever they appeared, civilizations disappeared. But inside the small wooden cabin, the human named Jack looked almost relaxed. Solara watched him carefully as he typed quickly on his laptop. His fingers moved across the keyboard like someone playing a musical instrument. Messages were spreading across Earth's networks faster than she could track. You are contacting your military? Solara asked. Some of them, Jack replied. And your leaders? Jack shook his head. Leaders take too long. Humans work better when everyone knows the problem. Within minutes, Solara's scanner began detecting activity all across the planet. Satellites adjusted their orbits. Communication towers began sending encrypted signals. Aircraft scrambled from hidden bases. But what shocked Solara most was something else. Millions of civilians were responding. Scientists. Engineers. Programmers. radio operators, even ordinary people with small telescopes. Everyone was sharing information. The entire planet was waking up. Solara leaned closer to the holographic map. "This is chaotic," she said. Jack grinned. "Exactly." Solara didn't understand. Most advanced civilizations operated through strict command systems. Orders flowed downward. Citizens followed instructions. But humans were doing something completely different. They were thinking. Independently. Everywhere. On Jack's laptop, messages flooded the screen. Unknown fleet detected above Pacific. Orbital weapons online. Civilian satellites adjusting cameras. Observatories tracking movement. Someone had already identified the alien ships. Another group was calculating their speed. A team of students somewhere in Europe had begun analyzing the fleet's formation pattern. Solara felt something strange. Fear. But not fear for humans. Fear for the invading fleet. "You are organizing very quickly," she admitted. Jack sipped his coffee. Humans are good at solving problems. Above Earth, the alien warships continued descending slowly. They had not yet fired any weapons. The Korth Dominion believed in intimidation first. Their ships broadcast a signal across the planet. A deep mechanical voice echoed through every communication system. "Primitive inhabitants of this world. Your planet now belongs to the Korth Dominion. Deactivate all defensive systems and prepare for occupation." Solara felt a cold wave move through her body. That message had been used many times before. It always ended the same way. Planets surrendered. Cities burned. Entire species became servants. She turned to Jack. "You should prepare your population for evacuation." Jack blinked. "Evacuation?" "Yes," Solara said urgently. "Their technology is far beyond yours." Jack leaned back and folded his arms. "You know what humans do when someone threatens their home." Solara hesitated. "No." Jack smiled slightly. "We get stubborn." Just then his laptop beeped loudly. A new message appeared. Jack read it and chuckled. "What?" Solara asked. "Some engineers in Japan just figured something out." "What did they discover?" Jack turned the screen toward her. The engineers had been studying the alien fleet's energy signatures. They noticed something unusual. All the ships were connected by a shared power network. A synchronized system used to coordinate weapons and shields. Solara's eyes widened. "That is their battle grid," she said quietly. Jack nodded. "Looks like it." Solara felt a chill. The Korth battle grid was extremely advanced. It allowed fleets to move and fight as a single unit. Destroying one ship would not disable the system. But if the grid itself was disrupted, the entire fleet would lose coordination. "You cannot break that system," Solara said. "It is designed by one of the most advanced empires in the galaxy." Jack leaned forward. "Maybe." He typed another message. Within seconds, thousands of programmers across Earth received it. The problem had been shared. Humans loved puzzles. And now the biggest puzzle in human history had appeared. Above the planet, the alien commander watched Earth calmly from his bridge. The Korth commander was enormous compared to humans. His armored body filled the command chair. "This species is silent," one of his officers said. "Fear," the commander replied. "They understand their position." But the officer hesitated. "Commander, our sensors detect unusual signal activity across the planet." The commander waved a claw dismissively. "Primitive communication systems." Then suddenly another officer spoke. "Commander, our battle grid is receiving interference." The commander turned sharply. "Impossible." Meanwhile, inside the cabin, Jack watched the results appear on his screen. Thousands of small devices around Earth had begun broadcasting random signals. Wi-Fi routers, cell towers, weather satellites, radio stations, even garage electronics. Each one transmitted a tiny fragment of noise into space. Alone, each signal was harmless. But together, millions of signals combined into something powerful. A chaotic storm of electromagnetic interference. Solara stared at the data. You turned your entire planet into a signal weapon. Jack shrugged. Humans are creative. Above Earth, the alien fleet suddenly experienced glitches. Navigation systems flickered. Weapons briefly disconnected from the grid. Ships struggled to maintain formation. On the alien flagship, alarms began screaming. Commander! The battle grid is destabilizing. The commander slammed his claw into the control panel. Identify the source. Officers scanned the planet. They expected a military weapon. Instead, they saw something unbelievable. The entire planet was interfering. Billions of tiny signals attacking the fleet's coordination system. This is impossible, one officer whispered. Back in the cabin, Solara slowly sat down. She finally understood. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't rely on one powerful weapon. They turned everything into a weapon. Their technology, their networks, their ideas, even their everyday devices. Jack watched the alien ships struggling in orbit. Looks like the puzzle's working, he said. Solara looked at him with new respect. You planned this? Jack shook his head. No. Then who did? Jack smiled. Humanity. Above Earth, the alien fleet struggled to restore its systems. For the first time in many invasions, the Fourth Dominion had made a mistake. They assumed humans were weak. But humans had something far more dangerous than advanced technology. They had imagination. And now the entire planet was using it. Solara looked up at the holographic map again. The warships were no longer moving in perfect formation. Confusion spread through their fleet. And for the first time since arriving in Earth's orbit, the invaders were losing control. Jack leaned back in his chair and cracked his knuckles. All right, he said calmly. Phase 2. Solara tilted her head. You have another plan. Jack grinned. Oh yeah. Humans always have another plan. And far above Earth, the alien commander began to realize something terrifying. This planet was not afraid. This planet was thinking. High above Earth, the alien fleet was no longer the unstoppable machine it had been only minutes before. The ships still looked terrifying, huge shadows blocking the stars, but inside those vessels, confusion was spreading like a virus. The Fourth Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds. But none of those worlds had fought like this. The alien commander gripped the edges of his command throne as alarms flashed across the bridge. Restore the battle grid immediately, he roared. Technicians scrambled across their control stations. We are trying, Commander. The interference signal is everywhere. The commander stared down at the glowing blue planet beneath them. From orbit, Earth looked peaceful. Oceans shimmered under the sunlight. Clouds drifted calmly across continents. Nothing about the planet suggested resistance. Yet somehow this quiet world had turned into chaos for the invaders. Primitive creatures, the commander growled. They cannot defeat us. But even as he said it, another alarm sounded. Commander, several ships have lost targeting systems. Explain. The signal interference is corrupting the fleet's weapon synchronization. The commander's eyes widened. Without the battle grid, their fleet would lose its greatest advantage. Coordination. And down on Earth, inside the small wooden cabin, Jack watched everything unfold. Solara stood beside him, her glowing antenna flickering with disbelief. She had seen the Fourth Dominion destroy entire civilizations with terrifying efficiency. Cities burned in hours. Planets surrendered within days. Yet here on Earth, the invaders had been confused in less than 20 minutes. How are your people doing this? Solara asked quietly. Jack leaned back in his chair. Well, he said, humans love problems. Solara didn't understand. Problems? Yeah, Jack continued. Give humans a challenge, and we start inventing crazy solutions. His laptop screen filled with new messages. Scientists had already discovered something else. The alien ships used a shared navigation algorithm to maintain formation. It was extremely advanced. But like all complex systems, it had weaknesses. Solara read the analysis. Her eyes widened again. You found a flaw in their fleet navigation. Jack nodded. Looks like it. Solara shook her head in disbelief. The Korth Dominion spent centuries perfecting that system. Jack smiled. And humans spent 30 minutes breaking it. Across Earth, engineers and programmers had started building something new. Not a weapon. A trick. They created thousands of false navigation signals. Tiny fake gravitational readings. Phantom coordinates. Digital ghosts. Then they broadcast those signals into space using Earth satellites. To the alien ship's computers, the signals looked real. The fleet's navigation systems began adjusting automatically. Tiny corrections. Small course changes. At first the changes were barely noticeable. But over time, the formation began drifting. Inside the alien flagship, the commander watched the fleet display. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Commander, our ships are receiving conflicting navigation data." "From where?" The officer hesitated. "Everywhere." The commander slammed his claw against the console.